NBC's Monica Alba, who's covering the White House for us. Andrew Borene is executive director of Flashpoint and former senior officer at the U.S. Office of the National Director of National Intelligence. And Joel Rubin, former deputy assistant secretary of state in the Obama administration and author of the briefing book on Substack. Monica, any word yet on the meeting with the national security team and what he's been putting out there on social media?
Yeah, Chris, I was just told by a U.S. official that this meeting is scheduled to start this hour. As of just a couple of minutes ago, it hadn't kicked off yet, but that is something we can expect to take place. And if Friday was any indication, when the president was last monitoring real-time events from there with his top advisors, this could stretch on for several hours. It could be a lengthy meeting. It could be a meeting that takes place, then breaks up for a little bit of time, and then they come back in. So it's pretty fluid. And again, remember, he truncated his travels to Canada to come back to deal with all of this, in part, he said, and he wanted to be able to do this, to have face-to-face conversation as some really potentially consequential decisions are being made here about the involvement of the U.S. in this conflict, which in the last couple of days was at the level of not involved except when supplying defense to Israel as it was trying to fend off the missiles and incoming from Iran in the last couple of days, which we've seen, of course, go back and forth. So now the real question, Chris, and as the president is sort of hinting at in these social media posts, is we, the U.S., what role we will play and what kind of a decision might be made about using some of these massive bombs that could cripple the Iranians' nuclear capabilities and what they have been developing, though another storyline from today has been just where the truth is on how much, what ability, and how soon they could build a nuclear weapon. So the president is talking about unconditional surrender. He has some really ominous language in his social media posts. Remember, yesterday he posted to the 10 million or so citizens of Tehran that they should be prepared to evacuate. And then when he was pressed by reporters on what he meant by that message, he said he simply just wants everybody to stay safe. So this is a really delicate moment where the president had so far been pushing for diplomacy, but there could be more on the horizon. Chris.
Thank you so much for that. So, Andrew, we know that the president had said repeatedly over the number of months they thought they were close to coming to some sort of deal, which obviously hasn't happened. Monica just mentioned calling on folks to evacuate. In addition, those social media posts, we are not going to take the supreme leader out, kill, at least not for now, and then saying our patience is wearing thin. How do you see this moment?
I think this is probably the most fragile moment in modern global security history. Iran has longstanding assessments, and it's almost irrelevant if it's months or hours or days away from an offensive nuclear capability. There has been consensus that it is imminent and approaching, and that assessment is held for several years through different administrations. I think what prompts that this is now extremely dangerous is Iran is isolated, weakened, and backed into a corner. And when in the past Iran has been in these types of situations, they resort to cyber attacks. And just this week, since the last 5 days have started, we've seen a 700% increase in Iranian cyber attacks on Israeli targets. Now, those cyber attacks have the potential to spill over into other allied countries' critical infrastructure. That could create a very dangerous tripwire. If they resort to international terrorism, Iran has been the largest state sponsor of international terrorism for all of our adult lives since 1979. And if that terrorism were to kill an American citizen, a British citizen, a European citizen, you start to think, man, does that start to draw in traditional Western allies? So I think it's a very, very dangerous moment for the world. And I think we all have to kind of wait with bated breath and hope that diplomacy or negotiation or that the Iranians come to the table.
Joel, Israel has pulled off some of the most audacious and successful acts of espionage over the last year or so. The exploding pagers targeting Hezbollah in Lebanon, assassinations of axis of resistance leaders in Tehran and elsewhere. Now it's claiming to have total aerial superiority over Iran. But how do you convince someone to pull back when they think they're winning a war against an enemy they view as an existential threat? Do you agree with Andrew that we are in this fragile and dangerous moment?
Yeah, Chris, it's great to be with you. And I do agree with Andrew. I think that we're barreling towards bombing Iran. I think that this is a tragedy of the president's own making, going back to 2018 when he got out of a working nuclear deal that was designed to prevent this exact moment. So here we are in 2025, and to your point, Iran is a threat to Israel, a direct threat, and it has accelerated its nuclear program to points that need to be rolled back because it is posing it is nearly at capacity to building nuclear weapons and has enough material for 9 to 10. And I think that's just the moment we're in. Israel's attacks have gone a significant way towards degrading some of the nuclear infrastructure, but this is where it gets really dicey, because Israel is not able to get rid of all the nuclear infrastructure. And if it is an incomplete set of strikes, it means that Iran will still have the capacity to then quickly advance and move towards building a bomb, which they will say is justified based upon these attacks. That's why President Trump is considering what to do right now, because only the United States has the ability to truly militarily terminate Iran's nuclear program. It's a coercive diplomacy moment. Will Iran pull back and say, we don't need that bombing, we'll eliminate or get rid of our enrichment, or will they not? And I think the president then move forward to this other option.
Which brings us to the question of whether this situation, Andrew, can be de-escalated, right? The Wall Street Journal is reporting that resuming nuclear talks with the U.S. could be a kind of escape hatch for the Iranian regime. We don't know the full extent of the damage in Iran, but this morning, some top intelligence officials, including the CIA director, Ratcliffe, and DNI Gabbard, briefed senators on this situation. I wonder, first of all, what those conversations are like when it comes to assessing the formidability of Iran right now, the threat they pose, but also what you think the possibilities are that this could de-escalate.
You're asking me, yeah. Look, first off, I just want to address the fact that I'm not sure that I agree with the assessment that only the United States can neutralize Iran's nuclear capacity. Yes, we have joint directed aerial munitions. Yes, we have all kinds of sophisticated ordnance, but so do many other international powers. So do several of our European partners. So I think that it's not only the United States that can come in and neutralize that. There are also reports that Mossad and other Israeli Defense Force entities have potentially mechanisms to do special operations, ground raids, penetrating and then detonating inside, for instance, the Fordow facility. The Fordow facility is largely what is the core of this conversation that only America can help. And I'm not 100% certain that that is 100% true. Now, I will say that those meetings with the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, with CIA Director Ratcliffe, with the president, with the National Security Council, at this point, those are going to be conversations at a point-to-point, person-to-person basis. These decisions are made in a room that is the size almost smaller than a hockey locker room. You've seen pictures when the Osama bin Laden raid went off of all of them crowded around a monitor. That's still where those decisions are made, I assume, in this administration. And so I am confident the president returned to Washington, D.C. to have the best, most available intelligence to him as he makes these decisions. And so, like I said, we're at a very dangerous, pivotal moment, and it has ramifications that could go far beyond the Middle East.
But, Chris, if I can add to this.
Really quickly, Joel, really quickly.
Andrew is right, but there's currently only one country outside of Israel that is on the precipice of potentially hitting that Fordow site, and that's the United States.
Andrew Borene, Joel Rubin, Monica Alba, to be continued. Thank you both. We are